Thank you, Yvette. And what we're going to talk about today is fine-tuning your chart pattern searches with the initial trend indicator. I promise that I'm going to have exciting information for you, and I want you to stick around. And the room is full, and you should stay in your seats. And if you have a seatbelt, strap in because it's a pretty good webinar. Today, we want to start with the disclaimer. And its disclaimer, it says that AutoChartist service includes chart pattern identification in respect of foreign currencies, commodities, equities, and stocks. There are potential risks relating to investing and trading. You must be aware of such risks and familiarize yourself in regard to such risks and to seek independent advice relating thereto. You should not trade with money that you cannot afford to lose. The AutoChartist service and its content should not be construed as a solicitation to invest and or trade. You should seek independent advice in this regard. Past performance is not indicative of future performance. No representation is being made that any results discussed within the service and its related media content will be achieved. All options, news, research, analysis, prices, and or other information is provided as general market commentary and not as investment advice. AutoChartist, MDIO software, their members, shareholders, employees, agents, representatives, and resellers do not warrant the completeness, accuracy, or timeliness of the information supplied, and they should not be liable for any loss or damages consequential or otherwise, which may arise from the use of reliance of the AutoChartist service and its content. Okay, that being said, we'll move on to our next screen, and that is the table of contents. The first subject matter we're going to look at today is what is the initial trend, and then we're going to move on to the AutoChartist initial trend rating, the types of chart patterns, and talk about non-trending chart patterns, trending chart patterns, non-trending chart patterns and its relationship with the initial trend rating, the trending pattern and the initial trend rating, and the relationship and the information you can garner from that slide or that quality indicator. We'll talk about the importance of knowing the initial trend rating, and we'll show an example of a weak trend and a strong trend, and we'll move to the live data after that. The first question that comes up is, what is the initial trend? And the initial trend is defined as the strength of the trend prior to the pattern formation. So we'll be looking at a lot of slides today that are going to be showing patterns, and they're all going to have a common element. They're all going to have an initial trend indicator rating. It's important to a trader to, when they're looking at these patterns, to look at the initial trend, because of course initial is first, means first, so it's one of the first things you want to look at. And we've talked before at other webinars about the importance of knowing the trend, and it should really be a core component of your trading activity. So we always want to look at the initial trend. Next slide we want to look at is what is the initial rating. And the initial ratings is defined by AutoChartist move from 1 to 10 bars. Okay, the 1 to 3 bar rating is a quiet, sideways, congested, or compressed type pattern. A 4 and 5 bar initial trend rating is a more volatile sideways pattern. So you may get a start where there's a particular up move, and then the market will move sideways, and then there's a down move, and it tends to indicate a little bit more whipsaw action, but it stays within the AutoChartist boundaries of the support and resistance lines. And finally, a 6 to 10 bar rating is considered to be a trending market. Now here's an example of an initial trend rating of 1 to 3 bars. You can see that we pull up this chart. The initial trend is rated here, and we see a 1 bar rating. This is considered to be a sideways pattern. You can see that when the pattern started up here and where it ended up, there's not much movement. Even though we've had movement inside this ascending triangle, the actual gain from the beginning to the end is basically flat. And that could be the reason why we have this 1 bar trend rating. In our next slide, we see a 6 to 10 bar rating. You can see here this is a maximum 10 bar rating. And this projects that we've had a strong trend inside our pattern. So you can see that from this low to this high, it's a pretty strong trend, mostly green candlesticks indicating higher closes along the way. And that's part of the reason why we have this maximum 10 bar initial trend rating. In our next slide, we're looking at a 4 to 5 bar rating, and this indicates more volatility. Okay, so we have a chart pattern here that's a channel up, but our initial trend rating is 4, and you can see that there was a trend in this market. Let me move back to that slide. There was a trend in this market, except we had action of straight up, sideways, straight up, sideways, straight up, sideways, that type of action, and that's what is meant by a volatile sideways market. So right now, before we move on to the next slide, we're going to have a poll question, and that is, what is the maximum auto chartist initial trend rating? So open up the poll, and we'll take a look at that slide and what is the maximum initial trend bar rating. Looking at the screen, it looks like it's neck and neck between 7 and 10. We have 68% of the vote in. Okay. It looks like we're going to finish 81% pick 10, and that's absolutely right. The maximum auto chart initial trend rating is 10. 1 to 3 represents sideways. 4 to 5 represents volatile sideways. And a 6 to 10 rating represents a trend. So thanks for participating in that poll. And we'll now move on to our next section, which is titled Types of Chart Patterns. And on this chart, we see that we have, hold on 1 second here, let me close the screen off. We have a non-trending pattern, and we have a trending pattern. Okay, non-trending patterns tend to be the ones that are compressed and indicate sideways action, and the trending patterns are the ones that usually have parallel lines like channels and wedges and flags. So we'll get to some examples in a second, but those are the types of chart patterns. Okay, it's important that you pay attention to the phrasing that I'm using, chart patterns. So these are, again, non-trending and trending. A non-trending pattern is a triangle pattern. If you think about what a triangle looks like, it's wide in the beginning and the two support and resistance line narrow throughout the move until it reaches an apex, or the point where the two support and resistance lines cross. So as the market trades inside of this triangle, you get a gradual compression of the trading ranges. It usually comes at a time when there's indecision, or time shortly before a major report will take place, or some kind of earnings report, or maybe an economic report, or perhaps even a major speech by a central banker. So you tend to get this narrowing of ranges. Trading becomes compressed as traders are waiting for this news to trigger a breakout either direction. You don't know at the time which direction it's going to go. You can have an idea based on the initial trend rating and also based on how it's been closing or what the volume looks like. But that's one of the definitions of, or the main definition of a non-trending pattern. The next is a ascending triangle. That's highlighted by a horizontal support line and a steep angle pointing upward. We have a descending triangle, which is a market that has a horizontal top and a steep downtrending line. So the triangle family is basically the best definition of a non-trending market. So just think of what they look like. Wide on the left when the pattern begins, and a gradual compression as the pattern becomes more tightly wound. Some people call them coil patterns also. And we also have the pennant, which is, again, a real elongated and narrower triangle. So think of those formations: wide at the left, tight at the apex, and thinking of sideways indecision and the impending breakout. Now our trending patterns indicate our trending patterns are the up channel, the down channel, the rising wedge, and the falling wedge, and finally the flag pattern. And again, when you think about these patterns, you think about parallel lines. You think about lines that are drawn out into infinity. The support line and the resistance line both are drawn out into infinity, and they don't cross like the triangle pattern does. And all